The marble floor of Prestige Avenue gleamed under crystal chandeliers as shoppers browsed luxury watches worth more than most people's cars. It was 2:15 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, and the store was packed with tourists and Miami's elite. Designer handbags lined glass shelves. The air smelled of expensive leather and fresh lilies arranged in tall vases near the entrance. That's when Marcus Thompson walked in. He wore a gray hoodie with the University of Michigan logo faded from too many washes, black sweatpants, white Nike sneakers that had seen better days, and a navy blue baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. A worn black backpack hung from one shoulder. He looked tired because he was. His red-eye flight from Tokyo had landed at Miami International just 3 hours earlier. He hadn't slept in 36 hours. His eyes were bloodshot. His face showed stubble he normally would never allow in public. He looked like someone who had no business being in a store where the cheapest item cost $4,000. But nobody knew who Marcus Thompson really was. And that day, everything would change. If you believe that justice should reach those who discriminate and that hidden power is the best plot twist, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now, let's get to what really happened that day. Marcus walked slowly through the entrance, his sneakers squeaking slightly on the polished floor. He moved toward the watch display in the center of the store, a glass case filled with Rolex, Patek Philippe, and Audemars Piguet timepieces that cost as much as houses. He wanted to see something specific. 3 months ago, his VP of operations had told him that customer service at this flagship location was slipping, that sales associates were profiling customers, that people of color were being followed, questioned, treated like criminals instead of clients. Marcus had built Textile Retail Group from nothing. 15 years ago, he'd started with one small boutique in Detroit. Now he owned 127 luxury stores across 8 states. His personal net worth was estimated at $3.2 billion. Forbes had ranked him number 47 on their list of America's wealthiest self-made entrepreneurs. He'd been featured in Time magazine, Bloomberg, and CNBC. But right now, dressed like this, he was invisible. Or worse, visible in all the wrong ways. He leaned over the watch case examining a Patek Philippe World timepiece with a blue dial. $85,000. Beautiful craftsmanship. He'd always appreciated fine watches. The precision, the engineering, the artistry. He placed his hand on the glass, leaving a small fingerprint. That's when he felt it. Eyes on his back. Marcus glanced up slightly, not turning his head. In the reflection of the glass case, he could see a large white man in a black security uniform walking toward him. The man was maybe 6'3", 240 pounds, with a shaved head and a thick neck. His name tag read, D. Whitmore, head of security. He had his hand resting on his belt, near where his radio and pepper spray hung. His face showed exactly what he was thinking. Derek Whitmore had been head of security at Brickell City Center for 4 years. Before that, he'd been a police officer in Coral Gables for 12 years until he'd been quietly asked to resign after the 3rd complaint of excessive force against black suspects. He'd never been formally charged with anything. The department had paid settlements. Derek had walked away with his pension intact and a recommendation letter that got him this job. He approached Marcus from behind, his boots clicking on the marble floor with deliberate heaviness. He stopped 3 feet away, arms crossed over his chest. "Excuse me, sir," Derek said, his voice loud enough that nearby shoppers turned to look. "Can I help you with something?" Marcus didn't turn around. He continued examining the watch through the glass, his face neutral, his breathing steady. "I'm just looking," Marcus said quietly, his voice rough from exhaustion. "Looking," Derek repeated, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "At an $85,000 watch. In those clothes." He took a step closer. "You got $85,000 in that backpack, buddy?" A woman in a Chanel dress nearby stopped mid-conversation with her husband, staring. A teenager pulled out his phone, sensing something was about to happen. Near the handbag section, 2 sales associates whispered to each other, their eyes locked on the scene unfolding. Marcus slowly lifted his head, making eye contact with Derek's reflection in the glass. He said nothing. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. He simply looked at him with the kind of calm that comes from absolute certainty. "I asked you a question," Derek said, his voice harder now. "What are you doing in this store?" "Shopping," Marcus replied, still facing the display case. Derek's jaw tightened. He'd dealt with hundreds of shoplifters, con artists, and people who thought they were smarter than him. This guy's calm attitude pissed him off. People who belonged in stores like this showed respect. They answered questions. They explained themselves. This guy acted like Derek was bothering him. "Yeah, I don't think so," Derek said, taking another step forward. He was now directly behind Marcus, close enough that Marcus could smell his cologne mixed with coffee breath. "I think you need to move along. This store isn't for people like you." The words hung in the air like smoke. People like you. A Hispanic couple near the entrance stopped walking. The woman's eyes widened. The man pulled out his phone, pointing the camera toward Derek and Marcus. Another phone appeared, then another. Within seconds, 5 people were recording. Marcus straightened up slowly, his hands coming away from the glass case. He turned around, facing Derek for the first time. He was about 6 feet tall, lean, with intelligent brown eyes that held something Derek couldn't quite read. Not fear, not anger, something else. Something that should have made Derek pause. It didn't. "I'm going to need to see some ID," Derek said, his hand now resting on his radio. "And I'm going to need to check that backpack." "No," Marcus said simply. Not rudely, not aggressively, just a statement of fact. "No." Derek's face flushed red. "Excuse me? I don't have to show you my ID," Marcus said, his voice still quiet, still calm. "And you don't have the authority to search my belongings unless you have reasonable suspicion that I've committed a crime, which I haven't." The crowd was growing. A well-dressed older white man in a suit had stopped near the cologne display, watching with his arms crossed. 2 college-aged girls stood near the entrance, phones up, already streaming live on Instagram. The view counter was climbing. 50 viewers, 100, 200. Derek's radio crackled. A voice came through. "Derek, what's your 20? Derek grabbed his radio, his eyes never leaving Marcus. "Main floor, Prestige Avenue. I've got a situation. Possible code 5. Code 5 was security speak for suspected shoplifter. Copy that. Need backup? Affirmative. Send 2 units to Prestige Avenue, main entrance." Marcus watched this happen without moving. His hands hung relaxed at his sides. His breathing remained steady. He looked tired, yes, but not afraid, not even slightly nervous. To everyone watching, it seemed strange. Shouldn't he be worried? Shouldn't he be explaining himself, defending himself, showing ID to clear this up? But Marcus knew something they didn't. He knew exactly what was happening. He knew that in about 3 minutes, Derek was going to make the biggest mistake of his life. Do you see the calm with which he stands? Could you maintain that kind of dignity? Leave your answer in the comments. 2 more security guards jogged into the store from different entrances. One was a younger black man named Curtis, maybe 25, who looked uncertain about the situation. The other was a white woman in her 30s named Jennifer, who immediately adopted Derek's aggressive posture. "This gentleman is refusing to identify himself," Derek announced loudly to his colleagues, playing to the growing audience. "He's behaving suspiciously near high-value merchandise, and he's not cooperating with security protocols." "I'm not required to cooperate with your protocols," Marcus said, his voice still maddeningly calm. "I haven't broken any laws. I'm a customer in this store." "A customer," Derek said, his voice dripping with contempt. He looked Marcus up and down with theatrical slowness. The hoodie, the sweatpants, the old sneakers. "Sure you are, buddy. And I'm the King of England." Some people in the crowd laughed. Not everyone, but enough. Enough to encourage Derek. Enough to make him feel like he was right, like he had support, like this was justified. Jennifer stepped closer, her hand also on her radio. "Sir, this can go easy or hard. Your choice. But you're going to need to show ID and let us verify you have a legitimate reason to be in this establishment." "My legitimate reason is that I want to shop here," Marcus replied. "That's the only reason anyone needs." Curtis, the younger security guard, shifted uncomfortably. Something about this felt wrong to him. The man wasn't acting like a shoplifter. He wasn't nervous, he wasn't looking for exits, he wasn't making excuses, he was just standing there. Calm. Too calm. Curtis had dealt with plenty of shoplifters. They all showed tells. Rapid eye movement, excessive sweating, aggressive defensiveness, or immediate compliance to avoid confrontation. This guy showed none of that. "Derek," Curtis said quietly, maybe you should shut up and do your job," Derek snapped at him. Then, turning back to Marcus, "Last chance. ID and backpack, now, or I'm calling MPD, and they'll handle this their way." That's when Patricia Hayes emerged from the back office. Patricia was the store manager, 48 years old, with perfectly styled blonde hair, designer glasses, and a cream-colored Armani suit that probably cost more than most people earned in a month. She'd been manager of Prestige Avenue for 6 years. She ran a tight ship. She had high standards. She believed that luxury retail was about maintaining a certain atmosphere, a certain clientele, a certain standard, and that standard did not include people in hoodies and sweatpants. She walked briskly across the showroom floor, her heels clicking like a countdown. Behind her came 3 sales associates: Brittany, a 26-year-old blonde in a black dress; Samantha, a 32-year-old brunette in navy blue; and Madison, a 24-year-old redhead in charcoal gray. All 3 wore expressions of practiced concern mixed with barely concealed disgust. "What seems to be the problem here?" Patricia asked Derek, though her eyes were locked on Marcus with the kind of look you'd give something unpleasant you'd stepped in. "This individual is loitering near high-value merchandise," Derek explained, standing a bit straighter now that management had arrived. "He refuses to identify himself or explain his purpose in the store. He's wearing inappropriate attire and carrying a backpack that could easily conceal stolen merchandise. I believe he's casing the location for a potential theft." Patricia studied Marcus for a long moment. She saw the hoodie, the sweatpants, the old sneakers, the backpack, the stubble, the bloodshot eyes. She saw everything except who he actually was. "Sir," she said, her voice sharp and clipped, "this is a luxury establishment. We have certain standards for our clientele. I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises immediately." "I'm a customer," Marcus said, meeting her eyes directly. "I have every right to be here." "You're not a customer," Patricia said, her voice rising slightly. "Customers don't dress like they just rolled out of bed. Customers don't refuse to identify themselves to security. Customers don't make everyone uncomfortable." "I'm making people uncomfortable by looking at watches?" Marcus asked, and for the first time there was something in his voice. Not anger, not frustration. Something sharper, something that should have warned them. "By existing in this space? By refusing to cooperate?" Patricia shot back. "By acting suspicious. By disrespecting our security protocols and our standards." Brittany, one of the sales associates, stepped forward. She'd been working at Prestige Avenue for 3 years. She'd dealt with plenty of difficult customers. She knew how to handle these situations. "Look," she said, her voice taking on that condescending tone people use when they think they're being patient with someone simple. "Nobody's trying to give you a hard time. We just need to make sure everyone in this store is here for the right reasons. You have to understand, we get people coming in here all the time trying to steal from us. It's not personal. It's just business." "It's extremely personal," Marcus said quietly. "Everything about this is personal." "Oh, don't start with that," Samantha, another sales associate, chimed in with an eye roll. "Nobody's profiling you. You're being asked to follow the same rules as everyone else." "Really?" Marcus asked. He gestured toward an elderly white man in golf clothes standing near the sunglasses display. "Did you ask him for ID?" "That's different," Patricia said immediately. "How?" "He's been a customer here for years, we know him." "And how did he become a known customer?" Marcus asked. "Did someone demand his ID the first time he walked in? Did security follow him? Did you threaten to call the police?" The phones were still recording. The live stream viewers had climbed past 800. Comments were flooding in. "This is disgusting. Sue them. Why are they treating him like this? Racist as hell. Let him shop. This man hasn't done anything wrong." But Derek, Patricia, and the sales associates were too deep in their own righteousness to notice the phones, to read the room, to understand what was actually happening. Derek had had enough. "All right, that's it. You're trespassing now. You've been asked to leave by management and you're refusing. I'm authorized to use physical force to remove you from the premises if necessary." "I wouldn't recommend that," Marcus said softly. "Is that a threat?" Derek asked, his hand moving toward his pepper spray. "It's advice," Marcus replied. "But you're not going to take it, I can see that." Derek moved forward quickly, reaching for Marcus's arm. "You're coming with me. We'll sort this out in the security office and then MPD can deal with you." Marcus pulled his arm back, not aggressively, just stepping backward to avoid Derek's grab. It was a normal reaction. Anyone would step back if someone tried to grab them, but Derek interpreted it as resistance. "He's resisting," Derek shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He's resisting security personnel." Jennifer, the other security guard, moved to Marcus's other side, trapping him between them. Curtis hung back, his face troubled, his hand not on any of his equipment. "Sir, don't make this worse," Jennifer said. "Just come with us quietly." "I haven't done anything wrong," Marcus said, his voice still calm but firmer now. "I'm a customer attempting to shop in this store. You have no legal right to detain me." "We have every right to protect our merchandise and our customers," Patricia said, stepping closer. She was enjoying this now. The power of it, the righteousness of it. "You're obviously not here to shop. Look at you. You can't afford anything in this store." That's when Brittany made it worse. "Honestly," she said, her voice dripping with contempt, "I don't know why you people always try to come into places where you don't belong. It's embarrassing, for you and for us. You people." There it was. The thing everyone had been thinking, now said out loud. The crowd had grown to about 30 people now. Every single one of them was recording. The live stream viewers had passed 1,200. But Patricia and her team were in too deep to back down now. They'd committed. They'd taken a position. And in their world, backing down would mean admitting they were wrong. Marcus looked at Brittany, then at Patricia, then at Derek. He took a slow breath. "Last chance," he said quietly. "Walk away from this. Just let me shop in peace. That's all I want." "Or what?" Derek challenged. "What are you going to do about it?" Marcus said nothing. He didn't need to answer that question. The answer would come on its own soon enough. Derek grabbed Marcus's arm, his fingers digging into the gray fabric of the hoodie. Marcus remained still, not fighting back. But Derek interpreted stillness as stubbornness. He grabbed harder, pulling Marcus toward the exit. "Get off me," Marcus said, his voice low but clear. "You're assaulting me. I'm removing a trespasser," Derek growled. Big difference. That's when Derek made the decision that would destroy his life. Marcus tried to pull his arm free. Again, not violently, just a normal human reaction to being grabbed. Derek took it as resistance. With years of police training and bad instincts coursing through his brain, Derek grabbed Marcus's other arm, spun him around, and slammed him face first toward the floor. The crowd gasped. Multiple voices shouted, "Oh my God, and stop, and what are you doing?" Marcus's body hit the marble floor hard. The sound echoed through the store like a gunshot. His baseball cap flew off, skidding across the polished surface. His backpack twisted awkwardly against his spine. Derek pressed his knee into Marcus's back, right between the shoulder blades, using his full weight. 240 pounds pressing down on Marcus's spine. "Stay down," Derek shouted, adrenaline and righteousness flooding his system. "Stay the hell down." Jennifer moved in to help, grabbing Marcus's left arm and wrenching it behind his back. Curtis stood frozen 5 feet away, his face pale, his hands shaking slightly. Marcus's face was pressed against the cold marble. He could see phone screens pointed at him from every angle. He could hear Patricia's voice barking orders. He could feel Derek's knee crushing into his back. He could smell the expensive perfume from a nearby display mixing with the scent of his own sweat. And he said nothing. He didn't shout. He didn't curse. He didn't fight back. He didn't demand they release him. He just lay there, breathing steadily, his eyes open, his face showing nothing but calm acceptance of what was happening. To the security guards, this looked like submission. Finally, the criminal was complying. Finally, the threat was neutralized. Finally, order was restored. To everyone recording, it looked like something else entirely. It looked like a man who knew exactly what was happening and was letting it happen. Like a man who had power these idiots couldn't even imagine and was allowing them to hang themselves with their own rope. Patricia stood over the scene, her arms crossed, satisfaction written across her face. "Search his backpack," she ordered. "I want to know what he's got in there." Derek kept his knee pressed into Marcus's back with one hand while using his other to grab the backpack strap and pull it off Marcus's shoulder. He unzipped it roughly, dumping the contents onto the floor next to Marcus's face. Out spilled a laptop, an iPad, a phone charger, a bottle of water, a bag of peanuts, a hoodie even older than the one Marcus wore, and a worn leather wallet. No stolen merchandise, no weapons, no drugs, nothing illegal or suspicious at all. "Check the wallet," Patricia said, her voice slightly less certain now but still aggressive. "He's probably got fake IDs or stolen credit cards." Derek grabbed the wallet and opened it, his fingers rough against the leather. He pulled out the contents, letting items fall onto the marble floor one by one. Driver's license, Amex black card, Visa signature, Another Amex, a Chase Reserve card, business cards, receipts, and something else. Something that made Derek pause. A security badge, corporate, heavy plastic with a magnetic strip, the kind that gave access to executive floors in office buildings. Derek picked it up, squinting at the text in the store's bright lighting. Textile Retail Group, Marcus Thompson, Chief Executive Officer, Executive Access. All locations. Derek's hand started shaking. Just slightly. Just enough that the badge trembled in his fingers. "What is it?" Patricia asked, stepping closer. "What did you find?" Derek said nothing. He just stared at the badge like it was written in a language he couldn't read. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of it. This couldn't be real. It had to be fake. You can make fake IDs anywhere these days. This was probably just... Jennifer leaned over Derek's shoulder and saw the badge. Her face went white. "Oh no," she whispered. "Oh no, oh no, oh no." "What?" Patricia demanded. "What is it? Show me." Derek's knee was still pressed into Marcus's back. Marcus hadn't moved. He lay there on the marble floor, his face turned to the side, his eyes half closed, breathing steadily like a man taking a brief rest rather than a man being assaulted by security. Madison, one of the sales associates, picked up one of the business cards that had fallen from the wallet. She read it, and her face went from confused to horrified in 3 seconds. Marcus Thompson, Chief Executive Officer and Founder, Textile Retail Group, 127 locations across 8 states. She dropped the card like it had burned her fingers. "Let me see that badge," Patricia said, her voice sharp but now tinged with something new. Something like fear. Derek handed it to her with a shaking hand. He still had his knee on Marcus's back. He hadn't processed what this meant yet. His brain was refusing to accept it. Patricia looked at the badge. She looked at the business card Madison had dropped. She looked at the Amex black cards scattered on the floor, the kind of cards that required you to spend at least $250,000 per year. She looked at the driver's license showing Marcus Thompson, same address as the business card, Miami, Florida. And then she looked at Marcus, still pinned to the floor by Derek's knee, calm and silent. "Get off him," she whispered. "What?" Derek asked. "Get off him!" Patricia screamed, her voice cracking. "Get off him right now!" Derek scrambled backward like Marcus had suddenly caught fire. His knee came off Marcus's back, and he stumbled, nearly falling. Jennifer released Marcus's arm and backed away, her hands up like she was surrendering. Marcus lay on the floor for another moment. Then slowly, with the kind of deliberate calm that made everyone watching hold their breath, he pushed himself up to his hands and knees. He stayed there for a moment, catching his breath. Then he stood, brushing dust from his hoodie, rolling his shoulders to work out the pain from Derek's knee. He looked at Derek, then at Patricia, then at the 3 sales associates, then at Jennifer. Finally at Curtis, who looked like he might cry. Marcus said nothing. He bent down, slowly collecting his belongings from where they'd been scattered on the marble floor. His wallet, his cards, his badge, his iPad, his laptop, his charger, the bag of peanuts. He took his time, moving with careful precision while 30 people watched in absolute silence. The only sound was the click of phone cameras taking photos and the quiet hum of the store's air conditioning. When Marcus had gathered everything and put it back in his backpack, he picked up his baseball cap from where it had slid across the floor. He brushed it off, put it back on his head, adjusted it. Then he looked at Patricia again. "I'm going to leave now," he said quietly. "And when I come back, which will be very soon, I'll be dressed differently. But I'll remember everyone who was here today. I'll remember every face, every name, every word." He turned and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted for him like water. Nobody said anything. Nobody moved. They just watched him walk out, his old sneakers squeaking on the marble floor, his worn backpack over one shoulder, his posture straight and dignified despite everything that had just happened to him. When Marcus disappeared through the door, when he was finally out of sight, the spell broke. Patricia's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Corporate headquarters. Her hand shook so badly she almost dropped it. Derek stood frozen, staring at the spot where Marcus had been pinned to the floor. His mind was finally starting to process what had happened, what he'd done, who he'd done it to. Brittany pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, Googling Marcus Thompson, Textile Retail Group CEO. The results loaded. Forbes articles, Bloomberg profiles, photos of Marcus in tailored suits accepting business awards, photos of Marcus cutting ribbons at store openings, Photos of Marcus shaking hands with the mayor of Miami. Net worth, $3.2 billion. Stores owned, 127. Including Prestige Avenue, including this store. Including every square inch of the floor where Derek had just slammed the owner's face into marble. "Oh God," Samantha whispered, her voice barely audible. "Oh God, we're finished." Patricia's phone kept ringing. She finally answered it, her voice shaking. "Hello, yes, this is Patricia Hayes, manager of—" Yes, I'm aware of the incident. We didn't know who he—" The voice on the other end was loud enough that people nearby could hear it shouting. Not words exactly, just the tone. Fury. Absolute fury. Patricia's face crumbled. "I understand. Yes, I understand. The line went dead. They'd hung up on her. Curtis looked at Derek. "Man, what did you do? What the hell did you do?" "I didn't know," Derek said, his voice hollow. "How was I supposed to know?" "You weren't supposed to tackle him in the first place," Curtis shouted, his voice breaking. "He wasn't doing anything wrong. I told you something felt off. I told you." Derek had no answer for that. The phones were still recording. The live streams were still running. The view count had passed 20,000. The video was already being shared across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Brickell City Center was starting to trend. Marcus Thompson was starting to trend. Racist security was starting to trend. Someone had posted the video with the caption, "CEO of billion-dollar company gets tackled by racist security guard in his own store. Watch this." It had 15,000 retweets in 10 minutes. Jennifer sat down on a nearby bench, her head in her hands. She'd been working security for 8 years. She'd never made a mistake like this. She'd never assaulted anyone. She'd just backed up Derek. She'd just followed his lead. That's what you did in security. You backed up your team leader. But it didn't matter. She'd grabbed Marcus's arm. She'd helped pin him down. She was on every single video, clear as day. Madison was crying. Actually crying. "I didn't say anything racist," she kept saying to Samantha. "I didn't say you people. That was Brittany. I just watched. I just stood there." But she had watched. She had stood there. She'd smirked when Derek had grabbed Marcus. She'd nodded when Patricia had called him suspicious. It was all on video. Patricia tried calling corporate headquarters back. The line went straight to voicemail. She tried her district manager. Voicemail. She tried the VP of operations. Voicemail. They were shutting her out. Already. She looked around the store at the crowd of customers. All still recording, all still watching, all witnesses to the biggest mistake of her professional life. "I need everyone to please return to shopping," she announced, her voice shaking. "The situation has been resolved. We apologize for the disturbance." Nobody moved. They just kept recording. A few people were giving statements to a reporter who'd somehow already arrived. A local news crew from Channel 7 that had been driving past and saw the crowd. "Can you tell us what happened?" the reporter asked a middle-aged black woman who'd recorded the whole thing. "They attacked that man for no reason," the woman said, her voice angry. "He was just looking at watches, and that security guard decided he didn't belong here. Then they slammed him on the ground like he was a criminal. It was disgusting, absolutely disgusting." The reporter turned to her cameraman. "Make sure you got all of that." Patricia walked quickly to the back office, closing the door behind her. She sat at her desk, put her head down, and for the first time in her 6 years as manager of Prestige Avenue, she cried. Because she knew. She knew with absolute certainty that her career was over, that this moment would define the rest of her life, that she would never work in retail again, that her name would be Googled forever, and this video would be the first result. She'd destroyed herself. Derek had pulled the trigger, but she'd loaded the gun. She'd backed him up. She'd ordered the backpack searched. She'd stood over Marcus with satisfaction while Derek's knee crushed into his spine. And she'd done it all for nothing. For an assumption. For a bias. For a prejudice so deep she hadn't even recognized it as prejudice. She'd thought it was professionalism. Outside the office, Derek was still standing in the same spot, staring at nothing. Jennifer had left, just walked out of the store without clocking out, without saying goodbye, just gone. Curtis was talking urgently into his phone, probably calling his union rep. The 3 sales associates huddled together near the handbag display, scrolling through social media on their phones, watching in real time as the video spread across the internet like wildfire. "It's everywhere," Brittany whispered. "Everyone's sharing it. Everyone's commenting. Oh God, they found my Instagram. People are commenting on my photos. The comments were brutal. You're a racist. You should be fired. Disgusting human being. I hope you never work again. You people? Really? You actually said that? Samantha's hands were shaking so hard she dropped her phone. It clattered on the marble floor, the screen cracking. 2 hours passed. The store stayed open, but nobody was shopping. Customers came in, looked at the staff with disgust, and left. Some took photos of Derek, who'd finally moved to sit on a bench near the entrance, his head in his hands. At 4:37 p.m., 3 black SUVs pulled up outside Prestige Avenue. Out stepped 6 people in expensive suits, 3 men, 3 women, all carrying leather briefcases and tablets. They moved with a kind of purpose that made people step aside. The leader was a tall black woman in her 50s wearing a charcoal suit and pearls. Her name was Angela Morrison, and she was the VP of Operations for Textile Retail Group. She'd been with the company for 12 years. Marcus Thompson had personally recruited her from Nordstrom. She was brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely loyal, and she was furious. She walked into Prestige Avenue like a general entering a battlefield. Her eyes scanned the space, cataloging everything. The remaining customers with their phones, the staff huddled in small, terrified groups, the marble floor where Marcus had been tackled, still showing scuff marks from the struggle. Patricia Hayes, Angela announced, her voice cutting through the space like a blade. Show yourself now. Patricia emerged from the back office, her eyes red from crying, her makeup ruined. She walked slowly toward Angela, each step feeling like walking to the gallows. Ms. Morrison, Patricia began, her voice cracking. I can explain. No, Angela cut her off. You can't. There is no explanation for what happened here today, but you're going to listen to me very carefully. The entire store had gone silent. Even the customers who'd been about to leave stayed, sensing something important was about to happen. Angela pulled an iPad from her briefcase and held it up, showing the video that had now been viewed 40 million times. 40 million in 2 hours. This is Marcus Thompson, Angela said, her voice ice cold. Founder and CEO of Textile Retail Group. My boss. Your boss. Everyone's boss. The man who signs every paycheck in this company, including yours. The man who owns this store, this building, and about 126 others like it. Patricia said nothing. What could she say? At approximately 2:20 p.m. today, Angela continued, Mr. Thompson entered this store dressed casually after a red-eye flight from Tokyo, where he'd been negotiating a partnership deal with Mitsubishi worth $1.3 billion. He came here directly from the airport to conduct a surprise quality check on customer service, something he does regularly at all our locations, which you would know if you paid attention during management training. Patricia's face was the color of old paper. Instead of being greeted as a valued customer, or hell, even as a basic human being, Mr. Thompson was profiled, harassed, assaulted, and publicly humiliated by your security team and your sales staff. He was tackled to the ground. He was physically restrained, his belongings were dumped on the floor like garbage. And throughout all of this, you, the store manager, the person responsible for setting the tone and standards of this location, you stood over him and enjoyed it. We have 17 different videos from 17 different angles that show your face, your satisfaction, your contempt. Angela's voice rose, filling every corner of the store. You violated company policy. You violated state law. You violated basic human decency. And you did it to the one person in this entire organization who had the power to destroy you completely. Not that it should matter who he was. You shouldn't treat anyone like that. But you did. And now you face the consequences. She pulled out a document from her briefcase and handed it to Patricia. Effective immediately, you are terminated from Textile Retail Group. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. You have 15 minutes. Your final paycheck will be mailed to your address on file. Do not contact anyone from this company again. Do not use anyone from this company as a reference, and know that Mr. Thompson is considering whether to press criminal charges for assault, false imprisonment, and civil rights violations. Patricia took the document with shaking hands. She tried to speak, to apologize, to beg, to explain, but no words came out. Angela turned to the 3 sales associates. Brittany Chen, Samantha Rodriguez, Madison Foster. You're also terminated. Same terms. 15 minutes to collect your things. Brittany started crying. Samantha just nodded numb. Madison looked like she might faint. Then Angela turned to Derek, who'd stood up when she entered, trying to look professional despite everything. "Derek Whitmore," Angela said, her voice somehow even colder. "Textile Retail Group does not directly employ you. You work for Elite Protection Services, which holds our security contract. However, I've already spoken with your company's CEO. You've been terminated. Additionally, Mr. Thompson has instructed our legal team to pursue criminal charges against you for assault and battery. The Miami Police Department has been notified and will be issuing a warrant for your arrest. The 11th Judicial Circuit State Attorney's Office has received all video evidence and witness statements. They're reviewing charges that could include aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and violation of Florida's Civil Rights Act." Derek's legs went weak. He sat back down heavily on the bench. I thought I was just doing my job." "Your job is not to tackle innocent customers," Angela said. "Your job is not to racially profile black men. Your job is not to assault people because they're dressed casually. You had no reasonable suspicion. You had no legal authority. You had nothing but prejudice and aggression. And now you'll pay for it." She turned to Jennifer, who'd slunk back into the store when the SUVs arrived, hoping to avoid attention. "Jennifer Matthews, also terminated through Elite Protection Services. You put your hands on Mr. Thompson. You helped restrain him. You're an accomplice to assault. Same legal consequences as Derek. Enjoy explaining this to your next potential employer." Jennifer made a small sound, something between a sob and a gasp. Curtis, the younger security guard who'd been uncomfortable the entire time, stood rigidly near the entrance, waiting for his name to be called. Angela looked at him. "Curtis Walker, you're the only person on the security team who showed any sense today. You objected to Derek's actions. You didn't participate in the assault. You're being reassigned to a different location and will receive a commendation for your judgment. Report to the main office on Monday morning." Curtis's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank you, ma'am." Angela turned back to address the entire store, including the customers still recording. "For everyone else here today, I want to make something absolutely clear. This incident does not represent the values of Textile Retail Group. Marcus Thompson built this company on principles of inclusion, respect, and dignity for all people. What happened here today was a betrayal of those principles by individuals who will no longer be part of this organization." She paused, looking at the marble floor where Marcus had been tackled. "Effective immediately, this store is closed for 90 days. All staff will be reassigned to other locations or placed on paid leave during a complete operational review. We'll be implementing new training protocols, new management, and new security procedures. When Prestige Avenue reopens, it will be under entirely new leadership with a renewed commitment to treating every customer with the respect they deserve." The customers in the store looked at each other. 90 days. A complete shutdown of one of the most profitable stores in the entire chain. The financial impact would be enormous. Easily $10 million in lost revenue. But Angela wasn't finished. "Additionally," she said, pulling out another document, "Textile Retail Group is immediately terminating its contract with Elite Protection Services. The contract was worth $12 million annually. We'll be hiring a new security provider who actually trains their personnel in proper conduct, de-escalation, and civil rights law." Derek's face went gray. The company he worked for, Elite Protection Services, would lose a $12 million contract because of him. They wouldn't just fire him. They'd sue him. His life was over. Angela checked her watch. It's now 4:45 p.m. All terminated personnel have until 5 p.m. to collect their belongings and exit the building. Security from our main office will escort you. She gestured to the two men in suits behind her, both ex-military, both looking very serious. Patricia, Brittany, Samantha, Madison, Derek, and Jennifer moved like zombies toward the back offices and security station to collect their personal items. None of them spoke. What was there to say? Angela watched them go, then turned to the remaining customers. "Thank you for your patience during this situation. We apologize for what you witnessed. If anyone needs to speak with our legal team about providing statements, please see me before you leave." Several people approached her, offering to provide video evidence and testimony. Angela collected names, phone numbers, and email addresses with efficient precision. By 5:15 p.m., the store was empty except for Angela and her team. They walked through the space, taking photos, making notes, reviewing security footage from store cameras. On Angela's tablet, the video of Marcus being tackled had now reached 60 million views. The hashtags were trending worldwide. News organizations from CNN to BBC were calling for comment. The Miami Herald had published an article. The Washington Post was working on a story about racial profiling in luxury retail. This wasn't just a bad day for some employees. This was a public relations nightmare, a viral catastrophe, a defining moment that would be studied in business schools for years. But Angela knew Marcus. She'd worked with him for over a decade, and she knew he'd planned for exactly this scenario, not this specific incident, but the general principle. He'd been conducting surprise visits to stores for years, sometimes dressed casually, sometimes dressed formally, always testing whether his locations lived up to his values. Most stores passed. Some needed coaching. A few, like this one, revealed rot that needed to be cut out entirely. Angela's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Thank you for handling it. I'm fine. Bruises will heal. Principals won't." She texted back. "Criminal charges filed. Contract terminated. Store closed. They're finished." Marcus replied, "Good. That's justice. See you Monday." Angela put her phone away and looked around Prestige Avenue one last time. Beautiful space. Crystal chandeliers. Marble floors. Expensive merchandise. But none of it mattered if the people running it had poisoned hearts. "Let's go," she told her team. "We have work to do." They left, turning off the lights as they exited. The store that had been so bright and busy just hours ago now sat dark and empty. A sign appeared on the door the next morning. "Closed for operational review, reopening TBA." It would stay there for 90 days. The next morning, September 24th, 2023, Derek Whitmore woke up to a knock on his apartment door. He opened it to find 2 Miami Police Department officers with a warrant for his arrest. He was charged with battery, false imprisonment, and violation of civil rights under Florida Statute 784.04 and 760.01. His mugshot was taken. His fingerprints were recorded. His bail was set at $50,000. He couldn't make bail. He spent 3 days in jail before his brother borrowed money to bond him out. Elite Protection Services fired him via email. They also sent a letter from their legal team informing him they were suing him for damages related to the loss of the textile contract. $12 million. They knew they'd never collect it all, but they'd take his house, his car, his savings, everything they could get. Derek's wife left him 4 days after the arrest. She'd seen the video. Everyone had seen the video. Their neighbors looked at them differently. Her family told her to divorce him. She did. By October, Derek was living in a motel, working as a night security guard at a parking garage for $11 an hour. His lawyer told him the criminal trial would probably end in a plea deal, probation, community service, anger management classes. But his reputation was destroyed forever. Nobody would hire him for real security work again. His name was Poison. At night, lying on the thin motel mattress, Derek would replay that moment in his head. The moment Marcus had walked into the store. The moment Derek had decided he didn't belong. The moment Derek had made a choice based on clothing and skin color instead of behavior. If he'd just treated Marcus like any other customer. If he'd just said, "Good afternoon, sir, let me know if you need any assistance," and walked away. If he'd just extended the tiniest bit of respect. But he hadn't. And now his life was ruined. Patricia Hayes never worked in retail again. She applied to dozens of stores from luxury to mid-range to discount. Every single one Googled her name. Every single one saw the video. Every single one said no. She moved back to Ohio where she'd grown up and got a job as an office manager for a dental clinic. She made $42,000 a year, less than a third of her Prestige Avenue salary. She never told her new colleagues about her old career. If they Googled her name, they never mentioned it. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they were kind. But she knew. Every time she saw someone dressed casually, every time she found herself making judgments based on appearance, she remembered Marcus Thompson's face pressed against marble. She remembered the silence when he stood up. She remembered the calm way he'd walked out. And she wondered what kind of person she'd been. What kind of person she'd let herself become. Brittany Chen moved to Austin and worked at a coffee shop. Samantha Rodriguez moved to Seattle and worked in a bookstore. Madison Foster moved back to her hometown in Pennsylvania and worked at her father's hardware store. All 3 stayed off social media. All 3 changed their names slightly on resumes. All 3 carried the weight of that day like stones in their pockets. Jennifer Matthews moved to Orlando and found work as a shopping mall security guard. Though she had to lie on her application about her termination from Elite Protection, she lived in constant fear that someone would find the video and connect her face to Jennifer Matthews, former security guard who'd helped tackle a billionaire CEO in his own store. The video never really stopped circulating. It would die down for a few weeks, then resurface when someone retweeted it with a new caption. Every Black History Month it trended again. Every time a major racial profiling incident happened somewhere in America, people would post it as an example. Marcus Thompson became more famous than ever, but not because he sought attention. He gave one interview about the incident to CBS News and said simply, "This wasn't about me. This happens to Black men every single day in America. The only difference was that I had power to do something about it. Most people don't. That's what we need to fix." The interview was watched by 18 million people. Textile Retail Group implemented new policies across all 127 locations. Mandatory unconscious bias training, customer service standards explicitly prohibiting racial profiling, security protocols requiring supervisor approval before any physical contact with customers, and an anonymous hotline for customers to report discriminatory treatment. Marcus personally visited every store over the next 6 months, sometimes announced, sometimes not, sometimes dressed in a suit, sometimes in jeans and a t-shirt. He wanted every employee to understand that all customers deserved respect, regardless of how they looked. Prestige Avenue reopened in late December 2023 with an entirely new staff, a new manager, and a new mission statement printed on a plaque near the entrance. We honor every person who walks through our doors. Dignity is not determined by clothing, appearance, or assumptions. Here, respect is the standard. On opening day, Marcus attended in person, this time in a tailored navy suit. Hundreds of people came, many just to see him. The store did record sales. It became known as the location where the CEO who'd been tackled now worked, to ensure no one else would ever be treated that way. 5 years would pass before Derek Whitmore fully understood what he'd lost. He'd never get his old life back. Never work real security again. Never earn more than $15 an hour. Never rebuild his reputation. He'd become a cautionary tale, a meme, a name people Googled when discussing the consequences of racism. And every year on September 23rd, the video would trend again. Every year, millions of people would watch Marcus Thompson get slammed onto marble floor. Every year, Derek would receive emails and messages calling him everything from racist pig to waste of oxygen. He'd tried apologizing publicly once, in a Facebook post. The comments were so brutal he deleted his account within an hour. There was no redemption, no second chance, no forgiveness. Just the permanent knowledge that he'd destroyed his own life in 15 seconds because he couldn't see past his prejudice. This case reminds us that no one should be judged by their appearance. Justice, when it arrives, is complete and irreversible. Did you notice the signs that something was wrong throughout the narrative? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story of poetic justice, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Leave your like if this story inspired you, and share it with someone who believes that hidden power is the best plot twist.